Today we're going to be setting up our animation studio to shoot our first animation, the 3-frame boil. We'll be using this station quite often, so choose somewhere that won't gather clutter or have any unexpected visitors. We're going to need the following materials to set up our animation station. We're going to need a desk mount, your smartphone with Stop Motion Studio downloaded and open, some masking tape, a lamp, a desk lamp like this one right here, and then of course you're going to need your animation frames. I've got my 3 right here. Choose a table that is stationary, that won't wobble so much, and is ideally away from a natural light source like a window. Next, secure your phone mount to the side of your desk. This phone mount works by unscrewing this grip, this vise, attaching the vise to the end of your table or desk, and then screwing it nice and tight through this handle. All right, this next part is a little bit tricky, but we need to make it so that our phone rests on this mount, faces down towards the frames, like so. All right. Make sure that you can still touch your smartphone screen from where your desk mount is set up. So I think this should work. And you can test to see if it works by going into Stop Motion Studio to the video part, and from there you can play around with your mount, your phone, and the angle, and try to get it nice and centered on your animation. It's also important to try to make sure that your phone is level, because right now it looks like my phone is tilted a little bit up to the right. And I'm just gonna be playing around with this for a little bit, trying to get it as close to my animation and as level and flat as possible, like so. Okay. You're gonna take your animation frames and you're gonna grab the first frame. It should have the number 1 underneath it, like so. If you have a desk lamp, you're gonna turn on your desk lamp and try to get a nice light, not too bright so that it washes it out like here, but something like there. So it's on the center of your animation, but is not overpowering it. That's looking pretty good. You gotta make sure that the lines of your animation are crisp and clean, like so. All right, I'm doing this a little bit backwards, but here in Stop Motion Studio, I'm gonna walk us through getting our first project started. So when you open up Stop Motion Studio, you're greeted with this screen, and this is your library of previous projects. You'll see that I have several that I've already made. You're gonna hit this rectangle with the plus movie symbol, and you're gonna be greeted with this screen. The default screen that you get on Stop Motion Studio is this frame editor. Right now I have no frames to edit, so I can actually just skip this panel and go next to the camera panel. Now this next step is really important. What we need to do is switch our camera mode on our smartphone to manual. And so if you click on this bottom right, these little sliders, you're greeted with these options. You're gonna go to the second option with the letter M. It might not be M for you if you're on auto, but I want you to switch it from auto, if it's there, to this M on the far right. That's gonna allow you to control the light and the focus of your camera, which is really important. As I mentioned earlier, when we're trying to keep our frames away from a natural light source and we're using manual settings on the camera, we're trying to make everything as consistent as possible from frame to frame. Natural light coming in from the sun might mess with that, and sometimes your automatic focus on your camera is going to give you a really inconsistent focus from frame to frame. So you're going to switch it to manual, and then you're going to change these 3 settings. The first setting you're going to change is the focus. And focus is this little icon right here, this square with the circle in the middle. And you're going to move around this dial, trying to get the lines of your animation as clean and crisp as possible. It's going to be different from each person, but right now mine's at about 8.5. The next setting you're going to switch is the zoom. And that's that magnifying glass with the plus symbol inside. And you're going to try to zoom that in, try to cut away as much of your extra stuff going on. Like right now I've got this green cutting board behind it and the table. Try to zoom in so it's just your animation frame. And I'm going to move my frame a little bit just so it's centered. That's looking pretty good. And then the last setting we're going to play with is this white balance, which is this AW symbol. So right now, my white balance is on fluorescent. I'm going to play around with these different settings because right now I've got this other lamp, this not fluorescent light that's shining this really yellow light on my paper. I'm going to play around with these settings to try to get a more neutral white. And it looks like that first setting, that incandescent, is ideal. All right, so try to get your white color of your paper to match this very neutral white. Zoom in to crop out as much extra stuff as possible, and then change your focus so the lines of your animation are nice and crisp. Once your station is set up and on Stop Motion Studio everything's looking nice, you're going to take some masking tape and you're going to place 2 pieces of masking tape on all 4 corners of your animation. So like so, you're going to frame it. Masking tape all around. If you don't have masking tape, you don't mind drawing on your surface, or you can just take 2 pieces of paper and make an L shape out of them. That's fine too. But the important thing is these guides that we're taping down are going to make everything easier when we're lining up animations from frame to frame. And so once you've got all 4 corners taped, you're ready to start shooting your animation. So in Stop Motion Studio, we're going to hit this red capture button 2 times. So right now on the bottom right, you'll see the number 001. That means that whatever frame we capture right now is going to be the first frame. So that's that one, which I just hit. And now I'm going to hit it 1 more time to gather the second frame, like so. And once you have taken 2 frames of this once you've taken 2 shots of this first frame, you can remove that and put it away from the camera. Now you'll notice that right now on my Stop Motion Studio screen, I have a ghost image of that first frame, those first 2 frames that I took. And that's because I have a setting called onion skinning toggled on. So if you think about an onion skin, when you peel away the first layer of an onion, you can kind of see the layers beneath it. And this is the similar effect where you can see the frame that you've taken before. In my top left corner, you'll see this number 5, and I can toggle that to go from 1 to 3 to 5. Basically, that number is telling you how many frames before the current frame you're on. In the bottom right, I'm at frame number 3. That's going to tell you how many frames you can see. So right now, I can see 5 frames before, but I've only shot 2, so it's really only showing the first 2 for me. I would just keep it on 5, because I think in general, it's better to have more information on what frames you have before you. Now, if you remember, we numbered the bottom right corner of our frames to be odd numbers. We're skipping the even. And the reason why we do that is because now this frame, which is technically the second frame, but I've labeled it number 3, that number 3 matches up with the number 3 in the bottom right of Stop Motion Studio. And so rather than having to do any weird math to see like, is this number 2, is this number 3, this way we number it, it'll just make everything make sense. And again, I'm going to take 2 more frames, like so, and then move that away. I'm going to bring frame number 5 in, like so, and again, I'm going to take 2 more frames. I'm going to repeat this process 2 more times. So I'm going to start back at frame number 1, take 2 more shots, go back to frame 3, 2 more shots, frame 5, 2 more shots, and doing it one more time, we're going to take 18 frames total. That's the last instance for frame 1, 2 more frames for frame 3, and 2 more shots for frame 5. In the bottom right corner of my Stop Motion Studio, you'll see it says 19 out of 19. That should be the number where you end up at. And so once you've done that, you can hit this back caret in the top right corner. And now we go back to the frame editor, which we saw when we first opened up Stop Motion Studio. And here, this bottom timeline, you'll see all the frames that we've taken. They're all numbered. And I'm going to change a few settings for playback. That's just going to make things a lot nicer when we're looking at it. Right now, I'm on this far right icon, this playback icon. Change it to be this setting, loop playback. So it's always just going to keep repeating itself when it's done. This next one, which is really important, on this odometer icon on the left, I think the default setting is about 5, but we're going to bring it up to 24 frames per second. And then the last thing, if you want to play around with the aspect ratio, again, trying to crop out as much extra stuff that you don't need. I'm going to stay there. I think that's pretty good, in my opinion. All right. And now I'm going to hit play and see my first animation, my 3-frame boil. All right. And you should get just a slightly wobbling line that's making your eyeball come to life a little bit. This is the first rundown of how this animation studio is going to be set up and how we'll be capturing footage. And from here, we can begin working on some more complex animations. If you're satisfied with how this looks, you can hit pause and export it. But if there's anything that you want to change, for example, if there's a frame that you need to delete, you can click on a frame and delete it. You can also copy frames. You can also add new frames and then drag them to the correct location. But if you're satisfied with it, the last thing that you're going to do for a video on stop motion is go back to the library, select your video, and then hit this share icon almost to the top left and export movie. And then you're just going to scroll down to save video, and you'll be able to find that video in your photos folder and upload that to Streamable.